Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark, wants to give a big shout out to all the truckers that listen to our show. Night Dreams Talk Radio Network brings you the World Paranormal News with James Creechbaum. Now, the latest news.
I'm James Creechbaum with the Paranormal and the World Changes News. Ebola-like virus hits Britain as 3 patients treated for symptoms. Apparently, they came into close contact with 2 people diagnosed with the lesser fever, where victims can end up bleeding from the mouth and the nose. Now, 3 Brits are being treated for the Ebola-like virus after being rushed back from Africa. They came into close contact with 2 people diagnosed with the lesser fever in Sierra Leone, one of whom later died. Also, there is a video of a red UFO over Bradford. And this video is very intriguing. It's red. It looks like a UFO, and it's in the sky. Now, people don't know. They're saying, was it a drone? Was it a flare? But it wasn't a meteorite because it just kind of hovers there. It's very intriguing. But anyway, further reports come in on that. We'll follow up on that. Infrasound may soon help scientists more accurately predict tornadoes. So apparently some of the scientists are going to start using infrasound to try to track tornadoes more accurately, because they're 50% false alarm rate as it is right now. So they're going to try to use infrasound to more accurately predict tornadoes. An ancient artifact similar to the Stargate dial home device has been found in India, and it does look very similar to it. But scientists have found this artifact, and they're not sure what it is yet. They're still looking at it, but I've seen a picture of it. It does look like the Stargate artifact there. But it was very old, and they're still studying it, and more further news will come out on that. When it does, we'll follow up on it. Also, archaeologists have discovered an Amazon warrior, an ancient Armenian grave. And I've seen the picture of that. They have all kind of artifacts there. You name it, the bracelets, the warrior spear, and the scientists are very thrilled with that, and the archaeologists, and they're going to do a lot more study on that. And again, when more comes out on that, we will let you know. Next news break, top of the hour.
Make Kohl's Black Friday your first stop. Get $15 Kohl's cash for every $50 spent. And incredible Black Friday doorbusters. Stores open Thursday at 5 p.m. Or shop Kohls.com all day Thursday. Plus, take an extra 15% off. Kohl's Black Friday. Don't miss it. Doorbusters valid Thursday, November 28th, while supplies last, or until 1 p.m. Friday. 15% offer valid November 25th to 29th with promo code DINKS. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohls.com for details.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark, with our host, Gary Anderson.
And that is me. Well, let's get our guest on here. And, we'll talk to Mary Joyce here in a second. I tell you what, it's an interesting day today, I can tell you that. They were tearing part of our decking off the house today, my son. And they said at one point it was so bad they just moved a tree branch and part of it came down. Hey, Mary, my friend, how you doing?
I'm doing real well. I hope you're doing better.
Oh, yeah. I was just mentioning that my one son and my wife were out there. We have decking that goes 3/4 away around our house. We got a large house. And it's to the point we didn't feel like we wanted decking 3/4 away around the house. And the one part of the house, I have to be honest, we kind of neglected the decking for the last 2 years. And they got out there and they just moved a tree branch. And like a 20-foot stretch of the decking just came tumbling down. So I tell you, thank God nobody ever walked on it in the last year.
Oh my goodness!
So that's our day. How about yourself? Anything exciting happened today?
I haven't stumbled or tripped or had anything fall on me today, so I'm very, very grateful.
Oh, you're doing good. Now, why don't you tell the listeners who you are and, then about your newest book, and then we'll get in and talk about it.
Okay, I guess most people would now know me as the editor of a website called skyshipsovercashers.com. And we just cover all sorts of cutting-edge subjects. We started with UFOs. We've gotten into Cherokee Little People and Bigfoot and underground bases and what's going on in Antarctica and what's going on Mars, and just lots and lots of what I call cutting-edge subjects that I personally find fascinating, and I think a lot of other people do too. Since you and I last spoke, which is summertime, last spring, I've done a new book, and it's called Bigfoot Beyond the Footprints. And the reason I wrote it is because after about 10 years of doing investigations into Bigfoot sightings and people who have interacted with the Bigfoot, I learned that there's so much more than just the howling and the throwing stones and making stick structures and banging sticks against trees. And the Bigfoot, they have families. They've made friends with some people. They're very particular, by the way. They've helped and even rescued people in trouble. They have preferences. They have language. They have unique biology. It's a side of the Bigfoot that we just don't hear about.
Interesting. You said they actually have made friends with us humans?
Absolutely. Now, what I've found over the many years now is the people who do end up interacting with the Bigfoot are real down-to-earth people. They usually live in more remote areas. They might be into gardening. They're just like people who are at one with nature. And these are the kinds of people that the Bigfoot are more likely to interact with. Those of us who go around with a microphone and cameras and spotlights, it's not very likely they're going to warm up to those who approach them that way. So you have to be a special kind of person. And I'll give it, since we're getting close to the Christmas season, I'll share one of the stories about a man who lived in an area where a lot of people in and around him were selling logs or selling off their trees and their timber. And, of course, in hindsight, he realized that the homes of the Bigfoot were being destroyed, and he noticed that there were two Bigfoot structures on his land. And he's kind of a good old boy, simple, with a big heart, and he eventually made friends with the Bigfoot that lived on his land. And the reason I'm mentioning the Christmas connection is there was a little baby girl that was born Christmas Eve of 2016, and he had become he'd become so trusted by the Bigfoot, they let him see the brand new baby on Christmas Eve, which I think is just a really, really neat story.
Now, how did they let him see? Do you know how they did it? I mean, did the Bigfoot come up to him or up to their house or their cabin?
No. He was where they were, and he goes out in the evenings, oftentimes, probably daytime too, just to be where they are, and sometimes he's able to interact with them. So I'm sure that he was where they were living. They didn't come and knock on the door and say, "Hey, you want to see my new kid?"
How about sightings and stuff where, Bigfoot comes up to people's cabins and stuff like that and tries to, intermix their life with the humanoids?
What do you mean? Where they'd actually essentially knock on the door of people?
Well, not knock on the door, but, actually come up to maybe where a person has their cabin. Because there's been, reports. I had a guest on my show about a year ago. She claims that she lived out in the country by herself, and that she would go out, and by her fence line, she would see a Bigfoot. And over a course of months and months of leaving food out for the Bigfoot, because the Bigfoot would like steal anything it could get, or, off her property food-wise, they became kind of, sociable in a roundabout way.
It just like with people, only more so. It takes a while for, let's say, a friendship to develop. One man who had to retire from, I think, the sheriff's department someplace down in Florida because he had cancer. And so he bought a place that was in the national forest, and it was remote, and the mountain went up right behind him. And so the way it evolved in steps was, first of all, he heard this banging and then some grunting sounds up the mountain about 100 yards, I think, above where he lived. That was his first notice of them. And then I think a month or so passed, and he was on his front porch, which is like 30 feet above a stream. And he heard children running in the stream. And he was very puzzled because he's in a remote area, there's no children around, so he wondered what was going on. And when he went to find out, he again heard these grunting sounds, and the splashing stopped. That proved later to be two of the offspring. So he had a couple and their two half-grown Bigfoot living around where he lived. And another night he was on his porch, and he had like a light posted by his garage so he could see at night. And it's built on an old logging road, so we're talking remote. And he saw them crossing the road because of this light. And he realized later that this was a regular trail or pattern that they would follow. And he said it was interesting that it was always in the same order. The female came first, the male came second, and the two kids came last. Eventually, when he was out doing his gardening, the male Bigfoot would start to come around, and they began to become buddies at that point. Now,